So it's been a dry and difficult time for many residents of Johannesburg and other areas of Gauteng. A heatwave, water cuts and of course the ongoing load shedding, albeit downgraded to stage 3 from tomorrow morning. I'm joined now by Joburg Water CEO Ntshavheni Mukwevho. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Could you give us a quick update on the current water supply situations in the city of Johannesburg? Where are the areas of concern right now?
Good evening to you, Sally, and to the viewers at home. The areas that were affected were in the main, the area around our Brixton, Crosby, as well as Steel supply area. This is the area just outside the inner city. And then in the south of Johannesburg, the area that was affected was the Crown Gardens. Of course, there was another area called Eagle Nest that were affected. So those are the 5 reservoirs. That area that gets water from these reservoirs were affected. So as in terms of where we are, we were able, our bulk water supply rainwater, they were able to increase the load from Ekenhof from 1,100 to 1,200 last night, and we're able to start bringing back some of this system. So if you look at the area like Brixton Reservoir as well as the Tower Zone, we are okay. We are supplying water there, as well as the Crosby area. So the area that's still affected in the main is the area that's get water from Hestier. But those areas should start getting water now in the evening because we open the outlet of the reservoir at about 6 o'clock.
All right. So, it should
so
all
the area that indeed, yes, the area that indeed we're still working on, which we're hoping that we'll be able to get the necessary reservoir to get to the correct level where we can start pumping to the tower is the Crown Gardens. Our aim is that by tomorrow, we should be able to restore water in the area of Crown Gardens.
Does this mean the hospitals Helen Joseph and Rahima Musa are still without water this evening?
The hospital now in the evening, they have water, even though the pressure is still low, which is something that we are working on. We have teams that are on the ground making sure that we assist in the issue of improving pressure, but they are getting water from the municipal supply system.
Yeah, okay. So talk to me about the reasons for this, because we are in level 2 restrictions. We've heard various things, that it's a knock-on effect of load shedding, that we're just using too much water. I've just spoken to Michael's son, and he said that actually the main problem was a malfunction at the Ekenhof and Palmeet stations. So you tell me, where is the problem? Who's actually to blame for what went wrong? Because there were large areas without water.
The issue that we're dealing with it right now, it's of course the increase in demand, which has been in the main, which has in the main increased as a result of the high temperatures. I mean, you are aware that in Gauteng, the temperature has been high.
But this happens every year. Sorry, but this happens every year.
Yes.
Summer comes along, it gets hot. Surely there's a way to plan for this.
Yes.
What's at the heart of the problem of this inability to get waters into the reservoir? Because our dams are full.
Yes. So what happened exactly? When this temperature started increasing, it found that the system was on the low level in terms of the reservoirs. And while it has been on the low level, some of the area, a special area like Hestiel, Brixton, and as well as Crosby, they can tell you that for the past weeks or so, we've been issues around stabilizing the reservoir simply because there were a number of failure or power supply failure at our back supplier plants. And that really affected the issue of stabilizing the system. So whereas the temperature increases, the system already was in a low level, whereby indeed we could not be, the system could not be able to cope.
When you say power failure, are you talking a direct impact from load shedding?
And not necessarily direct impact from load shedding. Load shedding in the main around the water supply affects the localized pump station. But if you look at the measure plant of our bulk supply, they don't necessarily get load shedding. So this power failure were not necessarily as a result of load shedding, but were the issue of power supply from that happened at the plant, which of course the ESCOM dealt with it, as well as the municipal for that area where they supply power to the plant of our bulk supply.
Very quickly, do you agree with Michael's son that the broader problem is we need more water reservoirs and towers?
Indeed, especially if you look at the area that it's usually affected in the city of Johannesburg, which is the area just outside the inner city, around Brixton and so on. That's an area where our bulk infrastructure, we need to improve it. And we have planned. In fact, we have projects that you may be aware that about last year in May or so, we indicated that we are going to be improving infrastructure in that area. And indeed, there are projects that are on the pipeline that will be implementing in the next 2 years or so, which will really be improving the bulk infrastructure in that area.
Critical issue. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Joburg Water CEO Ntshavheni Mukwevho. Good news, the 2 hospitals that were affected, he says water is going back there, but it is still at a low pressure, and he hopes it all to be resolved by tomorrow.